the topic of the day, and the reason you clicked on that video is because of that thumbnail. Pat McAfee was talking about Mike Vrabel, and he talked about how excited he is to see Mike Vrabel and excited to see him out there working with the Cleveland Browns on offense, on defense, and special teams. And he has something very fascinating to say. He expects the Browns to be good, but he also expects Mike Vrabel to get a bigger role and have a much greater impact as the season wears on. Check this out and see what you think about it.
Mike Vrabel, defensive consultant on the Browns staff. He was out at OTAs working with a lot of different elements of the team. Caught Pat McAfee's eye. Take a listen to what they were saying, Pat McAfee Show, about Mike Vrabel.
Could you imagine having Vrabel just hanging around the team? What a weapon for the Cleveland Browns. This seems genius for Stefanski.
Yeah, it does. I wonder, I'm sure as the season goes, too, like Vrabel's role will morph and change, and he's going to, like right now, you see him running the cards for like scout team defense, trying to get the offense. Imagine these O-linemen, like what he's saying to these dudes, like how he's talking to them about how he's going to dominate them if he wanted to, put his helmet on and run right through them. Like, I bet Brave's going to bring a lot of value to this team this year.
Yeah, let me tell you what he's saying right here. Ready? And sack. That's what he screamed. That's what he just screamed right there in the middle of that particular rep. But, I mean, what a weapon this guy's going to be for the Cleveland Browns. I would actually put this as something that would heighten 2 to 3, I think 2 more games, winning games, with having Vrabel just hang around. He's got no real responsibility other than make the team better, right?
Yeah.
That's what we assume with these roles?
Mm-hmm. That's what it feels like, isn't it? I mean, what is this? What do we know what his title might be? I don't even know.
Is it senior consultant?
Yeah. Okay.
It's hey, we're not paying him shit. The Tennessee Titans are, but he's going to be hanging around. I think that's what it's called.
And Brad, the thing is, I thought he should have gotten an NFL head coaching gig. I think he's a really good coach, and absolutely, Kevin Stefanski is going to pick his brain and put him to work as much as he is willing to work.
Hey, man, shout out to Sports for CLE. That was courtesy of him and the Pat McAfee Show. And shout out to the Orange and Brown Report. My man Brad Ward was one of the first dudes to ever interview me back in the day when I first got into the game. Shout out to what they're doing over there on Orange and Brown Report. All guys, all things being equal, everybody doing a good job of breaking this story down. And I just want to add my 2 cents to it. For me, I think this is something that has completely been undervalued, underrated, since we got Mike Vrabel. When you take a look at what Mike Vrabel is doing out there, and this is why I love little moves and little nuances like this. I love the fact that they're highlighting this, because if you're a football junkie, if you're a football fan, if you're a guy who played the game, understands what geniuses and different people can bring to the table, he's saying Shang, if you don't know what I'm talking about. Like, if you played the video game before, if you played Mortal Kombat, Shang Tsung was a character in which he took the souls of other players and were able to emulate those players and use their same attacks, their same defenses, some of their same special moves, and he was able to play as basically everybody on the roster, right? So what I love most about that, and the analogy you'll get is, see, Mike Vrabel already played the game, right? He played at Ohio State, played at a high level, and then was playing one of those guys to play multiple positions for the New England Patriots, won multiple Super Bowls. He's up under guys like Bill Belichick. He was up under guys like Romeo Crennel. He's been able to do that. He's also been a coach at a high level for the Tennessee Titans. And when you get a dude like this, who is out there playing free, out there as a guy who's in a role of a consultant where he does not have an official position, you got to think of this as a think tank. So now when you bring him in, especially on the defensive side of the football, we like to have jam sessions, what we like to call. And any musician out there knows about jam sessions, where it's you get a good bass guitar, you get somebody on drums, you might get somebody on saxophones, maybe trumpet. You know what I'm saying? You get some percussion, you get guys in there, and you just jam. You have a jam session. Ain't no notes on the screen. Ain't no specific things that you're doing. You just coming and grooving and vibing off one another and making real good music. And when you in tune with somebody and when you got experience and you know and you done been around a lot of different eclectic groups where you done been around a lot of other people who play different styles, maybe jazz, maybe pop, maybe it's R&B, maybe it's heavy metal. When you get people and you jam session, you come up with the most beautiful music because you just vibing and you understand, you feel the game. And when you look at Mike Vrabel, he's a guy that understands it and feels it, right? So he's out there, and instead of it being a jam session in music, think about these coaching sessions when they coming up and cooking up these game plans. When you get a Bubba Ventrone who's played the game at a high level, especially on special teams, that knows the game intimately, and new rules are coming out. He's excited about that because now he's thinking about, okay, what ways can I affect the game? And you got Mike Vrabel, he doesn't have to worry about the restraints and the time, constraints of being a head coach and the media stuff. He could just be a mad genius. He can go home and think about a formation or think about what you can do to derail a team when they're running certain plays, or what ways can we come up with a better way to attack a quarterback who's having a great season. All these are things that are awesome. And is when you have guys playing off one another that know the game, not just they do the game in real. This is real life. Let me tell y'all something. And I don't want to get too far down the road. See, there's a difference between the guys that really know the game and the guys that live the game, that eat and sleep. See, one day, Tyvis can attest to this. Sometimes I'm just a football nerd. Sometimes I be watching film on cover 2 or cover 3, and I'm going over Tyvis. I was like, Tyvis, why? What if we switched it with this? Did you see this? Hey, Tyvis, you see this back pedal drill? Hey, Tyvis, hey, listen, let me show you this linebacker. Like, I enjoy talking about the game of football. I enjoy talking about the fundamentals of football. And when you get two guys together that understand the game at a certain level, it's just fun to talk the game. Now, look, there's a lot of people out there that love fantasy football, and I like fantasy football too, but they done got it conflated. Fantasy football is not real football. You telling me how your quarterback needed 3.9 points, and they only got 2 points, and how your running back, all you needed them to get is a cut touchdown on the goal line. They were in play action, and he didn't score. Like, that's cool. We understand that you get it, but it's a lot of dudes out here that be on a lot of these shows, a lot of dudes out here that be at these water coolers, a lot of these dudes out here that don't even really be watching these games. They're looking at fantasy football on their phone and looking for points. But these guys, they do it in real life. So when you get a Vrabel, when you get a Jim Schwartz, when you get a Bubba Ventrone, and when you get guys like that, and Kevin Stefanski, 2-time coach of the year, you really got 3 in a possible head coach if you're playing spades. Bubba Ventrone has been he's a guy that's assistant head coach, but you got 3 legitimate head coaches on your team. You know what type of advantage that is? Because you can skip a lot of the other stuff. Like, sometimes you might have to explain something to a tight ends coach, or you might have to explain something, or maybe a coordinator or a position coach is so in the minutia that they don't understand the big picture. But when you got guys that consistently understand what it is to call plays, to create schemes, to create game plans, and you can do that, and you can skip the pleasantry, and you can get right down to the X's and O's and be like, listen, here's what we want to do with that 3 technique. We're going to run a backdoor technique on that. We're going to run cover 3, and we'll transition to a cover 1, or they could just get to it. And the great thing about it is having Mike Vrabel and having that new energy, having that new set of eyes, and him being able to be creative. This is all, to me, this just, and this is a great move, because we talk about Ivy League people all the time. But one great thing that we talk about with the Ivy League is there's a lot of people that's leaving the Ivy League early, that's going right into the public sector, making millions of dollars, that's getting billions of dollars right now because they got the best ideas, and they're getting their friends. They're getting the people at the MITs, at Harvard, at Yale, at Brown and Princeton, and they bringing them in and say, hey, guys, let's go to Silicon Valley and make a boatload of money. And it just reminds me of how the Browns, they like to think that they're smarter than a lot of people. But in this case, when it comes to getting Mike Vrabel, they were smarter than everybody else. I don't know how they did it. I don't know how they got that money off. But I'm going to tell you what, when Pat McAfee says this is worth 2 to 3 wins, this is why it cracks me up when people want to boil down the game of football all to a simple 1 or 2 people. When you say that it's all about Deshaun Watson, you don't know what you're talking about. I beg to differ. Do not reduce this down as if we are talking about fantasy football. When you talk about the addition of a guy who has that much football knowledge that could be an asset on offense, defense, in terms of scouting, in terms of scheming, in terms of different things. Hey, you now got a guy to say, hey, I was the head coach of the Tennessee Titans, and when we played them last year, coach, they were doing this. And what we did to stop the Derrick Henry was this. We played Derrick Henry 2 times a year. Don't you think Mike Vrabel knows a little bit about something about Derrick Henry and what he likes and what he doesn't like? Mike Vrabel's a guy who understands and been a part of a game plan with Bill Belichick, where at their heyday, you couldn't tell me what the Patriots was running. They ran offense with 2 tight ends with Gronk and Hernandez. They had Julian Edelman. They had Wes Welker. They was running around with miniature size receivers, killing everybody. They went to they had Deion Branches of the world. They was playing guys both sides of the football. At their heyday, you couldn't tell me what they was running. That's scary. The cool thing about the Cleveland Browns, what makes me so excited for this year, is new blood, new thought processes, new ways to crack the code, new ways to go about building something. Dorsey is new. Love the fact that Dorsey is new. Vrabel is new. Ventrone is a young guy. Stefanski is one of the youngest guys doing with two coach of the years. And the fact that you got Jim Schwartz, the mad scientist who just don't, he don't mince words. I love it. You may have lost to Bill Callahan, but one thing that you did gain, I like Tommy Reese. I like the fact that he is a guy that was out there that was with Alabama putting up numbers in college. So he's close to the college game. You get some college aspects. I love the fact that, Dorsey has worked with a Cam Newton, has worked with a Josh Allen. I love that. Those are the things that when you get these guys in a room, it's the gumbo, it's the okra and the tomatoes, and you got to have the corn in there, and you got to have the 2 types of beef, the beef and then the sausage and the rice. It just everything, and you let that simmer, and you let that cook down into a nice stew. And boy, when you get 1 tablespoon of that, you don't never know when. That's what I like to see. That's the excitement level that I got when I look at this. And Pat McAfee is right. Shout out to Pat McAfee, obviously, as courtesy of him. And shout out to Sports for CLE as well for the clip.